What is the line between atrocity and sexual gratification? What is it? I would say that it is sadism. 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 It never occurred to me from the beginning. It was a matter of you ask yourself a ridiculous question and you have no answer, but then you wait a while, maybe an hour or two, or maybe even 5 minutes sometimes, right? It took me some time, not a great amount of time, but eventually it occurred to me that based on what I understand the meaning of sadism to be, that must be it. That must be it. I think that's quite accurate, you know? I was thinking about this. I came to think about this in part. Okay, you know, here's an example. You know, say you visit one of those terrible websites. They're quite rare nowadays, but you know, say you come to find one of them. Well, you know, in any case, you would not want to, you know, seek them out. But you know, say that you stumble upon one such terrible website. You know the kinds of websites I'm talking about. You know, not porn, right? But you know, close enough. You know, it's like to a certain degree, it's interchangeable. It's just the other side of the spectrum, or rather the other end of the extreme. So you know, what if you say you find yourself on one of those terrible websites? You know, of course, you're seeking out something quite terrible, right? You want to see something terrible, and you know, you find what you're looking for. You see some gruesome stuff, and then you're nauseous. You're nauseous. You know, you think you can stomach it, but you know, in your mind, you know, you're looking, and you think you're okay. You know, you're a man. You're okay. You can handle it, but your body says, "Nah, this is not normal, right?" You're like, "No, right? Like, this shit is not normal." You know, so you have that physical reaction, and maybe you watch it again, and maybe you watch another, and you become quite fed up after you know, maybe some 30 minutes if you know what's good for you. You become quite fed up, and then you know, now you scroll down. You scroll down. You know, there's some curious titles down along the way, but you don't really click on them. You know, you feel just about satisfied for the day. You know, if you know what's good for you. You know, but then but then down along the way you see, you know, on that terrible website you see something like a porn ad, right? You see something like a pornography ad. And it's not even an ad, you know, it's actually on that very website, you know, there's actual pornography on there. And you know, it's something like BDSM, right? You know, it's like, okay, now you know, you click on it. It's not exactly, no one's going to be tortured and eviscerated. You know, you pretty much know what to expect, right? Like you've seen something like this before. You know, of course you didn't expect it on there, but you click on it, and you know, maybe there's something ironic about that too, right? It's like, yeah, this is not what I was looking for, but ultimately I came to stumble upon it anyway, right? It's like, who would have thought? So you click on it, and it's something like BDSM, right? The woman, or the girl, they have their hands tied behind their backs. They have their hands bound, and they're taking it from the back, of course, right? And it seems, of course, it's porn, right? The title is something like teenager or stepsister, or like something incestuous, something seemingly, or something forbidden by societal standards. But of course, it seems like a role play, right? Some sort of role play BDSM. Although, of course, it's voluntary if it's role play. But then you kind of do wonder, though, right? It's like, why is this here? It's like you wonder, why is this here? But at the same time, it kind of almost makes sense, right? It sort of almost makes sense. It's like, it's you ask yourself certain questions. But you come to find that the answer is obvious, or for as much knowledge as you possess, with all the knowledge you come to accumulate throughout life, of course, there's going to be some things you make up and you think you're right, but that's okay, right? We live and learn. But it's like, why is this on here? Okay, I understand why this is on here. But it's a very strange thing, it's very strange. It's so strange. It's like, it's not enough to give you, even if you come to stumble upon a satisfying answer, it's still very strange. It's a very strange realization. It's like, here's a dose of atrocity. Here, people are getting murdered on tape, right? People getting absolutely eviscerated, absolutely dehumanized, and now scroll down along the way, and now here's some pornography, right? It's like, what about that? What about that? What about that? It's like you go from feeling nauseous to, of course, it's not immediate. It's more like there's a period of desensitization where it's all a joke. It seems like a joke, right? It's like, wow, who would have thought? It seems like a joke, but then you're watching the thing. It's like you're caught in a trap. It's a trap there. It really is a trap. You're caught in this trap from atrocity to from voyeuring atrocity to voyeuring sexual gratification, sexual acts, and there's a period of desensitization where you don't really feel anything. You've just seen something disturbing, and now you're watching this thing which is supposed to trigger arousal, sexual arousal. More on that later between the two. But yeah, it's a very strange transition. It takes a bit. It takes a while, maybe some few minutes, and then you realize, oh, it's working, right? It's the switch happens. The switch happens, but it's a very shameful thing. It's very strange. It's a very strange thing, right? It's like drinking freaking tequila, and then what? You're handed a bottle of, I don't know, Kool-Aid, right? Kool-Aid, something sweet. I don't drink Kool-Aid all that much. I never really liked it. Neither Sunny D, although Sunny D wasn't all that sweet either. How about something like what? Let's see. What are those packs and those plastic packs? It's not. I forget. Anyway, maybe I'll put an image. So like you go from drinking something sour, to something quite sweet. maybe like ice cream, right? Or not even ice cream, maybe like, say, like warm milk, right? Warm milk with like 3 spoons of sugar. How about that, right? That's quite nice. And it's very strange. It's a very strange thing. It's very strange. And I do wonder, though, I made this wondering, what happens if you explore that? How does one become a sadist, right? Say like you're a normal person, by all intents and purposes. What does that do to a person if they explore that? If they have a bit of that and then a bit of that, a bit of the other thing on the side, right? You go from feeling quite disturbed to feeling quite aroused. And another thing about arousal is some people go to those websites, those gore websites. Some people visit them for the very purpose of sexual gratification, I do believe, right? Like, to some people it really does it for them. It really does it for them, I think it's, and if you watch pornography for a long time, apparently, of course, this just makes sense, right? You come to be desensitized to the degree that some people, not everyone, but some people seek out, more extreme acts. In any case, maybe BDSM may not be quite, may never really be your thing, ever. Even if you come to be desensitized, BDSM may never really come to be your thing. It's like, okay, this is still weird, right? Like, I'm quite desensitized, but this is still weird, right? Like, why is she tied up? Like these, it's like, okay, yeah, these things don't work as well as they used to, but, I'm not gonna, it's not as if I'm going to succumb to this extreme, right? It's just, it just doesn't do it for me, right? It's too weird, right? It's too freaking weird. And that's not the weirdest it can get either. But, some things are just too weird. If you're lucky. But some other people, they really get into it. They really get into some really weird shit, right? Like strangulation, actually. And some people are really far gone. Like they go to those websites, for the very sake of sexual gratification, right? And I suppose I find that hard to comprehend, but maybe that's not entirely true. I suppose I could imagine it, but it's not. Yeah, of course, of course you can imagine sadism. Here's an example of a low-end experience of sadism. Say bullying, right? Bullying. When I was younger. Maybe I shouldn't say that. When you're younger, there's when you're young and maybe you have some memories. You have some memories where it occurs to you that you were a bully, and not only were you a bully, you also enjoyed it, right? Bullying is fun. Bullying is fun. It's like, oh, people, they don't bully because they feel pathetic about themselves, right? That's just, no, maybe they do, but during the point they're carrying out the bullying, right? You're bullying someone else, you're making them feel miserable, they're telling you to stop, and but they're quite weak in comparison, and they can't really do anything to you. But the more they dare to fight back, the more fun it is, right? The more they squirm and everything, trying to fight back, and even though you just about, you overpower them. They're nothing. but it's kind of fun. It's fun when they try to fight back. But bullying is quite fun. Bullying was fun. Anyway, maybe I've exposed myself, but if it's any consolation, I was bullied myself when I got older, and which is how I realized, like, hey, I used to be a bully myself. So look, I used to be a bully. Maybe you were a bully yourself too, right? Hey, let's we're not anyway, right? Bullying is fun, and now torture is fun. It can be, I can imagine. And if you can imagine torture being fun, perhaps you can imagine deriving sexual gratification out of it, right? Out of torture, out of the suffering of another person, extreme suffering, right? But anyway, there's something about dipping your foot in one thing and another. You have two basins. One cold water and the other is hot. They're two extremes, and you're dipping your toes in each basin. Maybe simultaneously, or maybe it's one foot. You put it in the extremely cold water, and then you put it in the extremely hot water. And you just keep cycling back. Like, what does that do to you? What does that do to a person? Right? It's like, why is that stuff on there? Why is that stuff on there? Why do they put pornography on atrocity websites? Why do they do that? Well, because it's the same thing. To some people it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, and if you don't know, if it never really occurred to you, and you practice that, you practice dipping your toes from one extreme to another, I don't know, I think there's something might happen. I don't know what it is, but of course it's not anything good, right? I don't imagine it's anything good. And I don't think, well, in any case, I don't want to find out, but I don't imagine it'll be anything good at all, right? Let's say maybe you may come to be desensitized on both ends, or maybe you may come to find a new hat trick of sorts, right? A new hat trick of sorts that may drive you towards something like genuine sadism, right? I don't know, but it's quite a fascinating thing. It's quite a fascinating thing, I would say.